In WordPress, the way your site looks can be determined via a visual site builder, letting you create highly custom layouts and designs using modern drag and drop interfaces. And the tool for the job is Breakdance, which has the best native WooCommerce integration of any page builder on the market today. We'll also be using Breakdance AI to help us generate some copy on our site. But we're not going to design the site from scratch, because Breakdance has a huge number of really attractive design sets that work perfectly with WooCommerce. This will help us get a complete store up and running with a custom design really quickly. So what we want to do first before we import that design set is we want to get rid of all the pages that WooCommerce added by default. We'll go ahead and move those to trash, because the design set's going to add its own pages like shop and my account, and we don't want duplicates. Next, we just need to go to Breakdance and then design library, and now we can scroll through, view the design sets that are available, and pick the one we want to use. I'm going to go with Clothify here, so I'll go ahead and click import and hit confirm, overwrite, and import. And it's going to go through and import everything we need for this design to be used on our site. I'll go ahead and close that. Now if we go over to pages, we will see that all of our pages have been added. But we are going to have to tell WooCommerce where these pages are at. So let's go ahead to WooCommerce and settings. And then under advanced, we can tell it where things like the cart page are, the checkout page, my account page, etc. So let's go ahead and search for cart. And you can see this is actually a different ID than the one it had selected because we removed the one that it had selected originally. So we'll choose this one. Checkout, we'll do the same thing. My account page. Do the same thing there. And that's pretty much all we need at the moment. Now there's a couple other minor tweaks I want to do before we get into really designing things. I do want to set the home page of the website, because right now, if we visit the site, it's going to take us to our blog post index, which we don't want. We actually want it to show the home page. So to fix that, we go in here and go to settings, reading, and here we have your home page displays. Under this, we want to choose a static page, and then we want to choose the home page here. Now, if we save that and we refresh, we will see the actual home page from the design set instead of our blog post archive. All right, so we're going to start by customizing the header. The header is this area at the top, which includes the navigation menu and the search and this little banner. So we want to edit that to kind of match our brand, because right now everything's using these green colors and we don't want to use that for our hot sauce brand. So from the front end, the easiest way to get to this header is to hover over Breakdance in the admin bar and click Open Header Home Header. But there are actually two headers with this design set. Let's go back to the WordPress admin panel and go to Breakdance Headers. Here you can see all of the headers. The reason there's two is because one of them is set to show on the home page, but then the other one is set to show everywhere else. But we actually don't need two for this site, so we can get rid of this home page one. Let's click trash. If we need to get that back, it is in the trash over here, so we can get it back. But for this one, we need to go to settings and we need to set it to everywhere, which it is. And we need to remove this condition so it actually is used everywhere. Now we can click edit in Breakdance. So while we're doing this, we're also going to set up our global settings, especially our global colors, because we're going to be using them as we design things. So we know we want to change this green to something that's on brand, and I have a little palette of colors I've selected. So we'll go into the three dots here and go to global settings and go to colors, and we're going to start tweaking all of this. Let's go ahead and open up our palette, and we're going to swap these out. For the white, I want to use this kind of warm white, and we'll use that for all of these kind of whitish colors. And then for this green color, we're going to swap that out for this red. We're going to change the base to a darker black. We'll leave the gray for now, but we might tweak it later. And then for links, we're going to put in this kind of burnt orange color. And then for our brand color up here, let's go ahead and select our action color. And that's pretty much all we need to do for our colors. If we actually jump up to the front end of the website, we'll see that all the colors everywhere have now changed. Let's go to home, and you'll see that impact as we kind of scroll through here. Now, some of it doesn't look perfect right away, and we're going to tweak it as we go, but all the colors across the entire site are now using our global color palette. Let's tweak this banner here. We'll select it and go to background, and we'll change this to our link color. And then for the text, let's go ahead and change it to a white color. So we'll click the design tab here, go to typography, and select one of our white colors. Now, if we want to edit the text, all we have to do is double click it here and start typing, or we can go to the content tab and change it here. So we'll go ahead and say free shipping for all orders above 100. Now let's go down to the header builder element itself. This is an element that has effects like overlay and sticky, which are common for headers, but we actually don't need overlay on this particular one, so we'll get rid of that. And let's go up to background and set it to our red color. You can see we're already starting to get the feel of like a hot sauce brand just by using these warmer colors. Next up, we need our logo, which we don't actually have a logo, so we're going to create one out of text. Now we need to address our menu here. We're going to remove the account icon, which we don't actually need for this setup. Then we're going to remove blogs, which we don't have a blog. We're going to rename this to shop. And we need to make sure the link is correct for this one. /shop is correct. Let's check this one. /about, home, correct. And then contact is correct. Now, just to keep things in balance with these more prominent items over here on the right, I'm actually going to bump this text size up a little bit. I think 2 rem's too big, so maybe 1.5. Let's try that for this one as well. And that looks a little bit better and more exciting. We definitely don't want our logo to get lost, though we don't want it to be so big that it throws everything else off. So we'll stick with that for now. There's a couple of different ways to get to our footer in Breakdance, but since we're already in the editor, the easiest way is to go up here to the quick navigator and search for footer. We'll go ahead and click it and it will swap us over to that footer. Now I'm going to make this footer background black. So the first thing I need to do is make sure the text isn't all black. So I'll select this heading and go to design, go to typography and change the color to red. We'll do the same thing here for this text under typography, change it to red. And then each of these headings is also going to need that. So we'll go in here on this one, go to typography, change it to red. And then we can just copy and paste the styles for that across here. We'll right click and click paste design, do the same thing here and over here as well. Now there were just a few headings here, so I just copied and pasted the design across. But if you have a lot of elements like these links here, you might want to use a design preset. So I'll select one of them and we'll set the style that we want. For instance, we'll change the typography color to red, and then we can create a design preset from this. So we'll call it red link. Now, if we select another link, we can go to the design tab and apply that design preset. So let's just do that for all of these and this one too. And let's finish with this last column. Now you might be wondering why I opted to use a design preset and go through and click so many times to add it to all of these elements. And it'll make sense here in just a minute, because I have so many links here and I might want to change the styles later. But if I had just copied and pasted the styles like I did for these headings, I'd have to do that again every time I made a change. For instance, when I hover over these links, they turn gray, which isn't going to look very good when we set this section background to black. Let's go ahead and do that. Now let's hover over a link. The gray just isn't the look I'm going for. So what we want to do instead is have these turn a different color. If we select one of the links that's using a design preset, you'll see that we can edit the design preset instead of the individual link settings. We'll click edit, and over here on the right hand side, we'll have the opportunity to alter the settings for this preset. So let's click the hover icon here so that we're editing the hover style. And then let's pick a color. Let's do something like our white color. I think that'll work good. It'll stand out a lot more than just the gray. But you'll note that even though I have this link selected, all of these links now have a white hover color. And that's because I used a design preset, which just saved me a ton of work when I forgot to change the hover color before potentially copying and pasting the styles across. By using a design preset, I've future-proofed my design and made it way easier to make global changes to these red links later. And in fact, here's another use case. I'm not even sure I want these to be red. Maybe I want them to be white. So let's actually change the hover color to red, and let's deselect the hover icon there and change the regular color to white. And you can see they all just switch right away. It's a huge time saver. I actually want this text to be white as well, so that we have a little bit of variation in the colors in this footer. And then for our form builder, I want this input to be white. So we'll go over to the design tab, go to form, go to fields, and we'll change the background color to white. Now we've got a form and we can actually see the field. The last thing I want to do is change the social icons to have a red background. So we'll go to icons, we'll change the background color to red, and we'll leave the icon color itself as white. Now let's go ahead and save that. And the last thing we need to do here is just update some of the text. So let's start down here with the copyright notice. We just want to update the year. We'll do 2026. But the problem with that is next year, it's going to be out of date. So one way we can fix that is we can use dynamic data. If we click this little dynamic data icon next to the field, we can search for date and we can click current date. Now this is going to output it in a specific format, which we don't want. So we can click this here and we can change the format to custom. And for the format, we just put Y, which means year. Now under advanced, we can put some text before that. So we'll put in the copyright symbol. And then after that, we'll put a space and put excite boom hot sauce. Now that copyright notice date is going to be correct every year, whether you remember to update it or not. One last thing you can do is adjust what your form builder does with emails submitted here. So if we go over to content, we can go to actions, and it's not currently doing anything. So we definitely want it to at least store the submissions, but we can make it do anything we want. We can link it up to ActiveCampaign. We can run custom JavaScript, link it up to ConvertKit, Drip, Discord, Slack. We can have it send an email, which is pretty standard, GetResponse, MailChimp, MailerLite, webhook, or even trigger a pop-up. For now, we're just going to store the submissions. So now our footer is complete and we can move on to designing the homepage. So the fastest way to get over to our homepage to edit it is to use the quick navigator. We'll look for home and just click that. And now we can actually see our new header and our footer with the rest of the design, and it's starting to look really good. But we do need to do some work on the homepage. We're just going to work our way down section by section and tweak each one to match our brand. So here we have some images. We want to swap those out for images that are appropriate for what we're doing here. So I'll pick something like this for the left one. And then we'll do something different over here. We'll select this column and go to background and hit choose on the image. And for this one, we'll pick this picture of hot sauce. And that looks pretty good, but it's a little bright for the white text on top. So let's go to overlay and let's add a gradient overlay, which will darken the bottom part of that image. We'll do the same thing here, overlay gradient. And that looks pretty good. So now we have a couple of products showcased here at the top. Now for the left, we just want to update the text and say something like ingredients, and we'll say spices and more. And then we'll say shop ingredients. Now we'll want to link this up to our categories in WooCommerce as well. Now to get the link for our WooCommerce categories, we can go back to WordPress. I'm just going to right click and open this in a new tab. And then over in my new tab, we'll go to the WordPress admin panel and go to products and categories. Here we can see all the categories we've created. We do want to grab these links, but we also want to add images for these because we're going to display them on the home page. So let's select ingredients first, and let's add an image. We'll use this one. And we'll update that and go back to our categories. For merch, we'll just grab an image of one of our merch items. For sauces, we'll pick one of our sauce images, maybe this one here, and click update. So now they all have images, which we needed to do anyways. But if we want to grab the link for ingredients, for example, we can find view here and right click and copy the link address. Now we can go back over to Breakdance and drop that in here in the link field. And we'll do the same thing for sauces. So we'll right click, copy link address, go back to Breakdance and update this link. So that's our first section on the homepage done, and it's already looking really good. So let's scroll down to the next section and see what we have. So you can see that we have some icon boxes here with some different benefits of our service or feature or whatever. We're going to need to update that to be more appropriate for a hot sauce website. So we're going to use Breakdance AI for that. But one thing we need to do is set up our business information in Breakdance AI. So we click the AI icon up here in the top bar and then go to settings. It already has our business name, but we do need to describe our business. We can also put some of those characteristics we want in the qualifiers area, like fun, funny, irreverent, witty. Now let's add a macro just for use on this site. We'll call the macro make it spicy. And the prompt should turn the following text into a witty, funny, short, and memorable blurb. So now that we have that macro, we can actually use it on any text we have. So Breakdance AI understands our business a little bit more. We could also put some details in here like the products we offer, but we shouldn't need that for now. Now we can go over here and actually rewrite the entire section. So we'll say, describe key features of our products and our brand. And let's go ahead and just try it with that and see if we need to workshop it anymore. As you can see, it's coming in with text that I personally like that kind of describe our brand vibe. Now, I just want to change the icons on each of these, so I'll hit that and see if I can search for something that implies an explosion. We'll choose this fire icon here. And we do need to go over and change the icon color, I believe. We don't want it to be gray light. We want it to be red. And then we'll just want to review all the text and tweak it where we want to. But the next little area is this part of the section, why choose Excite Boom. We don't necessarily want this to be for that purpose. I'd like to actually showcase our product categories here. So let's say browse by category. And then let's tell AI to rewrite this. Make this entice people to view our product categories: merch, sauces, and ingredients. And we'll go ahead and have that rewrite it. And we'll insert that. Now that's a bit much, so let's try out our new macro here, which is make it spicy. Let's insert that. And then let's shorten it as well. And insert. Now I like this overall, but I want to get rid of this last line just to keep it to 3 lines. And for this, we'll say explore all products, and that will link to shop. Now you can see here it says no products found. That's because we have a products list, probably looking for some products that aren't there. We don't actually want a products list here anyways. We want something called a term loop builder. This is actually going to let us display our product categories instead of our products themselves. But in order to use it, we need a global block. So let's go create a global block to use here. We'll go back to WordPress. Again, I'm going to open that in a new tab. We'll go back to the WordPress admin panel and then go to Breakdance Global Blocks and click Add a Global Block. We'll call it Product Category Card and click Add Global Block. Then we'll edit in Breakdance. This works basically the same as any other design in Breakdance, so I'm just going to paste in something I prepared. This essentially is just a div or a container with a link inside of it that links to the term permalink using dynamic data and has a background image also from the term itself, the product category image. And then here we're using dynamic data to show the term name. So we'll go ahead and save that. And then we can jump back over to our design here and find that global block. And then let's go down to our query. And we just need to select our actual taxonomy, which would be product categories. So now we see them here. We're going to hide empty ones so that uncategorized doesn't actually get loaded. And then we just need to change the layout a bit. We'll go over to the design tab, go to list, and we'll change the layout to grid. And then items per row, we want 3. And that looks pretty good. Now we have a little preview of all the categories available on our store. Let's go ahead and save that. Now, I don't think I even want this next section, so we're just going to delete it, get rid of that, and get rid of this as well. Now we have this men's collections area. But before I address that, I want to swap out all the logos here for the logos that we have for our business. So let's click Add Logo, and we'll upload files, select files. Right here they are. So we'll select all of them and click Open. Now we'll click Choose, and it'll drop those in. Now for this section, we're actually going to do top sellers. So we do want a products list here, but we do need to change our products query. And for now, we'll just leave it on all, but you could use featured to show your top sellers, for instance. And you'll note that these don't really match the vibe of the rest of the site. So we do need to do some customization, but we don't want to do it on this element alone because we're going to use the products list element across quite a few other pages, and we want them all to look consistent. So here's where we can get into our three dots up here, go to global settings and dig into the WooCommerce global settings. The first thing I want to do is tweak our buttons and links. I believe these are using a secondary button style, but let's just check that really quickly by setting a background color. Yes, that is correct. So what we want to do is we want to use the background color of our red here and then turn off the outline. And let's make sure the hover color is good. It's fine. And next we want to go into other, and then we want to go to product images. I want to set a 12 pixel border radius there, a 2 pixel border width, and a border color of our base color. Now you'll notice that the border radius didn't actually apply here. More than likely there's a setting here somewhere. Since this came with the design set, it might have some settings for the image element. So let's go in here and see if we can clear out this border radius. And now it's going to actually use the global setting. So that's perfect. I'm pretty happy with that. So we're going to move on to the next section. I actually don't think we need this section, so I'm going to get rid of it. Don't need this one, get rid of that. And that brings us to our footer. But there is a section I think we need up here, maybe right after this one, or perhaps before it. But either way, we want to pull a section from our design set and then modify it. So we'll click add and we'll go to library. And since we've already imported our design set, we'll choose this website. Now we can look at all of our other pages and pull a section from one of those pages. For instance, this one. But we do want to move this up a little bit. So let's open our structure panel and we'll collapse everything to make it a little easier. And we want to make sure we have our newly imported section selected, and then we want to move it up one space. Now it's right above this section, but below our kind of hero area. Now, first we need to swap out this image. Obviously that image has nothing to do with our company. So we'll scroll through and just pick something like this and drop it in. Now I do want some space kind of above and below these columns elements. So we can either do that on the columns level, or we can select the section and go to spacing and add some padding. Let's do that. And then on the image, I want to add some border radius, but only on the right-hand side. So let's go to borders and click this to break it out so that we can change each border individually. And we'll set that to 32 pixels on both of those corners. And then let's just select this div and let's go into AI. Let's have it rewrite this. This section has an image on the left and text on the right. The text should be focused on encouraging visitors to view our store. That should be just about all the context the AI needs, but we can tweak as we go. Let's go ahead and hit that. And let's get a better tagline here. Let's go ahead and use AI to generate that. There we go. Spice up. I like that. And let's make sure this is linked to the shop. Let's go ahead and save and just do one last scroll through to see if there's anything we forgot here on the home page. We'll get rid of the side panels and scroll down. I think it's all looking pretty good. We have our term loop builder, we have our products listed, we have our logo ticker here, and then we have our footer. So I'm happy with that for the home page. Let's go ahead and save one more time. Now that the home page is locked in, the next thing we need to do is customize our WooCommerce shop page. If you're already in Breakdance, the quickest way to get from one place to another is the quick navigator. So you can click up here and then click shop page and all product archives. And that'll take you straight into the shop page. Now, as you can see, it's not too far off. Our global styling that we set up for our products is working as expected here automatically without any adjustments. We just need to make a few minor changes to get this thing more in line with the rest of our design. For the first section here, I'm going to go ahead and give it a background image. So I'll click background, go to image under type, and then click choose to pick an image from my media library. I think I'm going to pick an image of food because that kind of implies the kind of things you can make when you're using our sauces. So we'll choose this one. And then obviously we have a contrast issue here. So I'm actually going to apply an overlay to this section. We'll click overlay and then we'll choose black here, but then we'll set the opacity to something like 50%. Now we need to change our text, of course, to a different color. So let's set the heading to white and then the text to white as well. And that's under typography here, color, and then we'll choose our global color. Now we just need to change our text. So let's just use Breakdance AI to do that. This section is at the top of our shop page. Use short, punchy, witty language to entice users to view our offerings. Now, because Breakdance AI has all the context of our business description here, it should go ahead and nail that for us. So we'll just click rewrite this whole section, and it switched it to ignite your taste buds, explore our dangerously spicy hot sauces. This is all perfectly on brand for the site that we're building. Now let's go down to the actual shop area. I want to get rid of a couple of these widgets here. I don't think we need the search widget, and I don't want the price widget for this particular one. I just want to show product categories and then top rated products. But this is showing way too many, so I can select this widget and then open the options here and set the number of products to something like 3. And then for the actual list of products itself, I think I'm going to bring this down to 2 items per row. So we can go into the design here and go to layout and change the products per row to 2. I like that a little bit better. It makes the images more bold and stand out a little bit more. And let's just scroll through and see if there are any other adjustments we want to make here. We've got all of our products displayed, our footer, everything looks pretty good. I do kind of want that logo ticker here above the footer, which I could just include that in the footer, but I may not want it on every page. So we'll click add, we'll go to the library, and under this website, we can go to the home page, which I think is already selected here, and we can find that ticker and add that to the page. And that just drops it in right above the footer where I wanted it. And the next thing we need to edit is the single products template, which is what you'll see when you click through from the shop page to view the details of an individual product. We've already got this nice hero for our shop page, so I'm just going to go ahead and copy that to my clipboard. And then I'm going to use the quick navigator here to pop over to the single product template. Now I want the hero from the shop page, which is on my clipboard, so I can just hit Command or Control V to paste that in, and then we can just update the text. Now for this, I kind of want the product information in the hero here. So what I'm going to do is use dynamic data. In Breakdance, you click an element and then find the field you want to use the dynamic data in. Click the little dynamic data button next to the field name, and then you can choose the data. Breakdance has a bunch of WooCommerce dynamic data points, so we can look through here under the WooCommerce category and find product title and click that. We can also search for it up here, and that kind of narrows things down a little bit for us. So if we click that, that shows us the product title in the hero. And since this is a template, it'll always show the title of whichever product we're viewing. Let's do the same thing down here, but let's do the product description. Let's go to our WooCommerce data and choose product description. And then for the background image, we want to use the product image. So let's replace this image here, which is a static image, with the actual product image. And that looks much better. Now we need to remove some of this information from the actual product area. Since we already have the title, we can get rid of that. We don't need a rating in this case, and we don't need an excerpt. We also don't need this icon list, but it's important to note that you can add any Breakdance element into your product layout and it'll work just fine. But let's get rid of it in this case. And then let's find our products cart button and let's go to spacing, container, and let's set the margin top to auto so it always floats down. This is going to matter a lot more with products that have taller images where you might have some space between the price and the add to cart button. Also, let's get rid of this product meta up here because I think it's a bit much. And then let's make the price bigger. Let's go to typography, go to current price, and change our font size to rem. And then it's looking a little bit bare to me. So I think I do want the product description after all. So let's look for description here and we can just drag that in. That definitely looks a little bit better with that there. So the next thing I want to do is a little bit of an overlap effect to move this stuff up over this section a little bit. So I'm going to select the section that all the product info is in and go over to spacing and then padding. I'm going to set the top to 0 pixels, which moves it right on up. Now everything is in a columns element, which is fine, but I want to do some other stuff here. So I'm going to wrap this all in a div. So what I'm going to do is add a div which will come in below this element. And I just need to open my structure panel and drag this entire columns element into the div. Now I just need to do some styling here. So I'll select the div itself, and I want the background to be our white color. And under container padding, I want to do 32 pixels all the way around. And then let's find, actually it's back over here under borders. We want to do 12 pixels to round those corners, which you can't see yet, but you'll be able to once we do the overlap. While we're in here, let's just add a shadow too to give it some separation from that other white background that it's on top of. And then finally, we need to add our actual overlap effect. So if we go to spacing and add a negative 64 pixel margin there, you can see the effect I'm going for. And that looks much more visually interesting. But we can actually spice this up a lot more with some animations. Fortunately, Breakdance has a really robust animation engine built in, so it's not hard to do. All we have to do is select the element we want to animate, which is this div in this instance. And we'll go over to our advanced settings, open up animations, and then we want a scrolling animation. We'll go ahead and enable that. The first thing we want to animate is the vertical position. So we'll start it at 100 and we'll end at negative 100. This is all in pixels. I'd also like to adjust the size of the div as we scroll down to kind of make it seem like it's swooping up into position. So we'll go to scale and we'll set the start to something like 0.8 and then middle and end to 1. Now with that set up, we can scroll to the top and you can see it looks like a normal layout at first, but as you scroll down, it kind of grows into position and you get that overlap effect. The rest of the single product template looks great to me. We have description and reviews here, as well as related products, which is going to be based on the product category. And I'll just take you up to the front end to show you how this applies to all of our products because we used a template. So this is our DIY hot sauce collection. But if we click into, for instance, the spice starter kit, it uses the same exact layout, but it's swapping out things like the background image, the title, the price, the description for the actual product data. And that's really the magical part of dynamic data combined with templating. Finally, we just need to make a few minor tweaks to the cart page, checkout page, and my account pages. And with those changes made, our WooCommerce store has been completely designed using Breakdance, an off-the-shelf Breakdance design set, and Breakdance AI to help us write some of our copy. Now, all we have to do is launch our store.